the wallet on the street. The night was cold and the neon lights of the city flickered against the wet pavement. People walked fast, their heads down, not caring about the one figure sitting in the shadow of a broken wall. She was an alien girl, small and thin, her clothes torn and dirty. Her skin had a faint glow, but the shine had faded after weeks of hunger and sleepless nights. She hugged her knees, trying to keep herself warm, while others passed without even looking at her. To them, she was just another street child, nameless and forgotten. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She had learned long ago that crying for food made no difference. The city was rich, but not for her kind. Aliens like her were often seen as outsiders, beggars, or worse, thieves. Every day was the same. She searched for scraps, chased shadows, and hoped for kindness, though kindness rarely came. That night, however, something different happened. As she walked along a quiet street, her bare feet splashing in shallow puddles, she noticed something lying near a shining car. At first she thought it was trash, but then under the dim light she saw the glint of gold edges. Slowly, carefully, she stepped closer. Her heart raced. It was not trash, it was a wallet. She picked it up with trembling hands. It felt heavy. She opened it and gasped. Inside were shining credit chips, enough to feed her for months. There was also a sleek card with markings she did not understand, but the symbol at the center was clear. It belonged to a powerful human office. She had seen that symbol on the walls of embassies. It was the mark of a diplomat. The girl froze, her mind filled with thoughts. With this wallet, she could eat, she could buy a blanket, maybe even find a small place to sleep. Her heart begged her to keep it, but deep inside another voice whispered, this was not hers. If someone lost it, they might be searching desperately. Maybe they would even punish anyone who touched it. She looked around. The street was empty. No one had seen her pick it up. She could hide it and no one would ever know. Her stomach growled again, sharp like a knife. She pressed her lips together. Was survival worth stealing? She closed her eyes, remembering the times people accused her of being a thief even when she was innocent. If she kept this wallet, their words would finally be true. Tears welled in her eyes as she sat on a broken crate, staring at the wallet in her lap. The rain began to fall harder, cold drops striking her skin, but she did not move. She turned the wallet in her hands, wondering about the man who owned it. A diplomat. What would he think if a poor alien girl returned it? Would he laugh at her? Would he believe her? Or would his guards drag her away before she could even explain? Her thoughts were broken by the sound of voices. Across the street, 2 human guards were searching the ground with flashlights. Their uniforms glowed under the rain, and one of them shouted, "The ambassador lost his wallet." "Search everywhere." Her heart skipped a beat. The diplomat himself was near. She looked at the wallet again. This was her chance to run. She could disappear into the alleys and the humans would never find her. Yet something heavy pressed against her chest. The more she thought about running, the more wrong it felt. She stood up slowly, clutching the wallet tight in her small hands. The guards spotted her. Their flashlights froze on her thin frame. "Hey, you there!" One of them barked. His voice was sharp, full of suspicion. They began to walk fast toward her, their boots splashing in the puddles. She took a step back. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but she forced herself to stay still. When the guards reached her, she raised her trembling hand and whispered, "I found this." The taller guard snatched the wallet from her fingers. His eyes narrowed. "Thief," he spat, and the other guard laughed bitterly. Of course. These street creatures always steal. Her throat tightened. She shook her head desperately. "No, I was going to return it." "I swear," but her words fell into the rain, ignored. The guards grabbed her arm roughly, ready to drag her away. She cried out, "Wait, please, let me see him." "Let me return it myself," the taller guard sneered. "You think the ambassador will waste his time with you?" Yet before he could pull her further, a calm voice came from behind them. "What is happening here?" The guard stiffened immediately and turned. Through the rain, a tall human man stepped forward, dressed in a dark coat. His eyes were sharp but not unkind. He looked directly at the girl, not at the guards. The ambassador himself had come. The girl's breath caught in her chest. She lowered her head, afraid to meet his eyes. The guards quickly explained, "Sir, we caught her with your wallet. She was about to steal it." The diplomat raised an eyebrow and extended his hand. The guard gave him the wallet. He opened it, checked inside, and then turned back to the girl. His voice was calm, almost curious. "Tell me, child," he said softly. "Did you really mean to return this to me?" The girl raised her head slowly. Her golden eyes shimmered with tears, but her voice was steady. "Yes, it is yours, not mine." The ambassador studied her for a long moment. The rain fell harder, the city silent around them. The guards shifted uneasily. And then, with a voice that carried weight, the ambassador said something that made everyone freeze. "Interesting, very interesting." The bold decision. The rain still poured from the sky, washing the streets in silver light. The alien girl stood in front of the ambassador, her small frame shaking but her eyes steady. She had spoken the truth, yet the guards' laughter still echoed in her ears. One of them muttered, "She lies." "They all do." The other nodded, certain that she was nothing more than a thief. The ambassador, however, did not look away. His gaze was sharp, thoughtful, as if he could see more than just her dirty clothes or thin body. He held his wallet close and asked again, slowly, "You could have kept it. There are credits inside, enough to feed you. Why didn't you?" The girl lowered her head, water dripping from her tangled hair. Her voice was soft but clear. "Because it was not mine." The street around them grew quiet. Even the guards stopped whispering. There was a strange weight in her words. The ambassador studied her face, searching for lies, but all he saw was a child's tired honesty. Yet he was not a man who trusted easily. In his world, words were weapons and honesty was rare. He decided to test her. Without warning, he slipped a golden credit chip from the wallet and held it out to her. The glow of the chip reflected in her wet eyes. "Take it," he said. His tone was calm but heavy, as though it carried hidden meaning. "You are hungry. This could buy you food tonight." "You earned it?" The girl froze. Her stomach twisted painfully at the thought of warm bread, fresh fruit, or even a single hot meal. Her fingers trembled. For a moment she imagined herself taking the chip, running away and never being cold again. But then she closed her eyes. She remembered the same voice in her head, the one that had stopped her before. "It is not yours." Her hand slowly dropped to her side. She shook her head. "No, I cannot take it." The guard stared at her in disbelief. "She must be mad," one whispered. The other scowled. "Or maybe she knows it's a trick." The ambassador's lips curved into the faintest smile, one no one else could read. He slipped the chip back into the wallet. "Interesting," he murmured again. His eyes stayed on her as if she had revealed something rare. But the test was not over. He turned to his guards. "Release her." The guards hesitated. "Sir, she—" "I said release her," the ambassador repeated, his voice sharper. Reluctantly, the men let go of her thin arm. She rubbed the spot where their grip had left a mark. "Follow me," the ambassador said simply, turning toward his vehicle. The girl blinked in surprise. "Follow you?" Her voice was almost a whisper, as if she could not believe her ears. "Yes," he answered without looking back. "If you are truly honest, then walk with me." The guards exchanged confused glances, but obeyed. The girl hesitated. Every instinct told her this was dangerous. She was just a poor alien child. Humans of power did not walk with her kind. Yet something in his tone felt different, commanding, but not cruel. She stepped forward, her bare feet splashing in puddles, and followed. They walked through the rain, the guards on both sides, the ambassador ahead. People on the street turned their heads to watch. Whispers spread quickly. "Why is the ambassador with that beggar? What has she done?" The girl felt their eyes burn into her, but she kept walking, clutching her arms around herself. At last they reached the ambassador's shining vehicle, taller than her and covered in lights. The guards opened the door, but the ambassador stopped. Instead of climbing inside, he turned and faced her. "You say you are honest," he said. His voice carried weight again, as though this was no simple conversation. "But words are not enough. In my world, actions matter more than anything. If you are telling the truth, prove it." The girl blinked. "Prove it? How?" The ambassador stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Inside this wallet is not only money. There are papers, documents that others would kill for. If you wanted power, you could take them. If you wanted riches, you could sell them. Yet you gave them back to me." His eyes narrowed slightly. "So tell me, why? Why would you risk your life for nothing?" The girl's lips parted, but no words came at first. She looked down at the wet street, then up at him. At last she whispered, "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything. I would not give that pain to someone else. The ambassador was silent. For a long moment, the rain was the only sound. Then slowly he nodded. A bold decision indeed, he said. The guards looked uneasy. One finally spoke. Sir, she could be lying to win your sympathy. She is just a street creature. But the ambassador raised his hand, silencing them. His gaze remained on the girl. No, he said firmly. I believe her. The girl's heart raced. She had never heard anyone say those words about her. The ambassador turned away, his coat swirling in the rain. Come with me, he ordered again. I will decide what to do with you. The girl swallowed hard. Her life was about to change, though she could not yet tell whether it was for better or worse. The streets behind her seemed smaller now, as if they belonged to a past she could never return to. She took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and stepped toward the unknown future that waited inside the ambassador's world. But in the shadows, unseen eyes watched her. Not everyone in the city would be happy with the choice she had made. The diplomat's test. The car doors closed behind them with a heavy thud. The alien girl sat quietly in the corner seat, her small body pressed against the leather, too afraid to touch anything. The vehicle smelled of polished wood and clean air, so different from the dirty streets she had always known. Outside the tinted windows, the city lights blurred as the car moved smoothly through the rain. Across from her sat the ambassador, silent, his sharp eyes studying her. He had not spoken since they entered the car, and the silence pressed against her chest like a weight. The guards in the front whispered to each other, but she could not hear their words. Finally, the ambassador leaned forward, resting his hands on his knees. You interest me, he said in a calm tone. But words are easy. Actions tell the truth. I must know who you really are. The girl's heart skipped. She swallowed hard. I told you the truth, she whispered. The ambassador nodded slightly. Perhaps, but I deal with worlds, with leaders who lie with a smile. If I trust you, I must be certain. He tapped the wallet against his palm. So I will give you one more test. Her stomach tightened. She looked at the shining wallet, fear mixing with curiosity. The car slowed and stopped in front of a tall building guarded by soldiers. The ambassador stepped out first, his coat brushing the wet ground, then turned back to her. Come. She hesitated, then followed, bare feet splashing on the steps. The guards looked confused, but no one dared question the ambassador. They entered a grand hall, golden lights glowing on marble walls. The girl had never seen such beauty. Chandeliers hung above her, taller than the broken houses where she once slept. At the center of the hall stood a long table covered with velvet cloth. On it were two small boxes. The ambassador gestured for her to come closer. This, he said, pointing to the first box, is filled with credits, more than you could spend in your lifetime. He opened it, and golden chips sparkled like stars. Her eyes widened. Hunger, cold, loneliness, all could end with just one handful. And this, he said, pointing to the second box, is filled with papers. Diplomatic files, coded messages, secrets that could destroy peace between worlds if placed in the wrong hands. He opened it too, and she saw strange documents sealed with symbols she didn't understand. The ambassador looked at her carefully. Take one box, only one, and remember, whichever you choose, I will believe it shows your true nature. The room fell silent. Her heart pounded so loud she thought the guards could hear it. She stepped closer to the table, her hands trembling. The credit box called to her, shining with promises. The other box was heavy with danger, filled with things beyond her world. She closed her eyes. If she took the money, her hunger would end, but the ambassador would see her as just another beggar. If she took the documents, she would be seen as a thief of secrets. Both choices felt like traps. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Slowly, she stepped back. I choose none. The ambassador's brow lifted. None? Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. The credits are not mine. The papers are not mine. Both belong to you. I will not touch them. The guards gasped quietly, exchanging glances. One whispered, she refuses both. The ambassador's lips curved in the faintest smile. Interesting, he murmured again. He closed both boxes with a snap and waved for the guards to remove them. The girl's knees felt weak. She had spoken with honesty, but would he believe her? Or would he think she was mocking him? The ambassador stood still for a long time, his eyes locked on hers. Then he finally said, Few adults would make that choice. Fewer children still. You have passed. Her chest rose sharply. Relief mixed with disbelief. Passed? She repeated softly. Yes, he said firmly. You have shown me that you are not ruled by hunger, nor by greed, nor by curiosity for power. You understand restraint. That is rare. The guards frowned, still unconvinced. Sir, one protested. She could still be pretending. The ambassador turned, his voice hard now. No. I have seen liars, I have seen traitors, and I have seen thieves. She is none of them. The hall grew quiet again. The alien girl stood frozen, her mind spinning. For the first time in her life, someone powerful was defending her. But then the ambassador's tone softened once more. He stepped closer, looking down at her with calm but serious eyes. However, truth alone is not enough. A person must also be brave. Tell me, child, are you brave? Her lips parted. She did not know how to answer. Brave? She had survived the streets, but she had always been afraid. Afraid of cold, hunger, and cruelty. Yet she had endured. Was that bravery? She whispered, I don't know. The ambassador studied her again, then said, You will have a chance to prove it. He turned to the guards. Prepare her. Tomorrow she will come with me to the council. The guards stiffened. One muttered, The council? With her? Yes, the ambassador said firmly. She will face the council and they will see what I see. The girl's eyes widened. Fear shot through her. The council? That word carried power, danger. She wanted to run, to hide. But the ambassador's gaze held her still. In her chest, fear and hope burned together. She did not know what awaited her, only that her life would never be the same again. The unexpected invitation. The next morning came with a pale sun breaking through heavy clouds. The alien girl awoke on a soft bed for the first time in her life. She blinked at the ceiling, her small hands brushing against clean sheets. The warmth felt unreal. All night she had tossed and turned, wondering if she was dreaming. But when the door opened and a maid entered with a tray of food, she realized it was all real. The smell of warm bread, roasted meat, and sweet fruit filled the room. Her stomach growled so loudly that the maid smiled faintly. The girl sat up slowly, her golden eyes fixed on the food. She wanted to grab it all at once, to eat faster than she could breathe. But something inside her held her back. She remembered the ambassador's sharp gaze, the way he tested her. She forced herself to eat slowly, carefully, with quiet dignity. When she finished, the guards came. Their expressions were hard, but their voices carried respect they had not shown the night before. The ambassador is waiting, one said. Her heart thudded as they led her down bright halls. Every step echoed against polished floors. Servants and officials stopped to stare at her, whispering in disbelief. Some sneered, others looked curious, but no one dared speak too loudly. At the end of the hall, tall doors opened. Inside was a massive dining chamber, filled with long tables of food and decorated with banners from many worlds. Diplomats, military leaders, and nobles were seated, their voices buzzing in the air. The girl froze at the sight. She had never been in such a grand place, never seen so many powerful people in one room. And at the head of the table sat the ambassador. His eyes met hers, calm and sharp as ever. He raised his hand and the room fell quiet. This, he said clearly, his voice carrying through the hall, is the girl who returned my wallet. Murmurs rose instantly. A beggar? A street alien here? The girl lowered her gaze, her cheeks burning under the weight of their stares. She wished the ground would swallow her whole. But the ambassador gestured to the empty seat beside him. Sit. Gasps rippled across the room. A few diplomats leaned forward angrily. One of them, a broad man in fine robes, slammed his hand against the table. This is an insult. How dare you bring a street creature to dine with us? She does not belong here. The ambassador's face remained calm, but his voice carried steel. She belongs because she proved what many of you could not. Honesty. The hall grew tense. The girl's heart raced as all eyes turned to her. She sat carefully, her hands in her lap, her body trembling. The food on the table glowed under golden lights, more plentiful than she had ever imagined. But she did not reach for it. She simply sat in silence, trying not to draw more anger. The broad man sneered, pointing at her. Do not be fooled, ambassador. She is clever. She plays innocent to win your favor. Tomorrow she will sell your secrets to the highest bidder. A few others nodded in agreement. The girl's chest tightened. She wanted to shout, to tell them they were wrong, but her voice caught in her throat. The ambassador looked at her, then back at the room. You see her as weak. But weakness is not in hunger or poverty. Weakness is in lies and greed. She chose truth when she had every reason to steal. Can any of you say the same? The words struck like lightning. Some looked away, others clenched their fists. Silence spread across the table. Then the ambassador turned to her again. His voice softened. Eat. She hesitated, but when she saw the firmness in his eyes, she picked up a small piece of bread. The taste filled her mouth with warmth, so different from the scraps she used to find in the trash. For the first time in her life, she felt not like a beggar, but like someone who mattered. Yet the tension in the room did not fade. Many eyes still glared at her, sharp and cold. Whispers moved like snakes across the table. Why is she here? What game is the ambassador playing? When the meal ended, the ambassador stood. This girl will accompany me to the council tomorrow, he announced. The hall erupted. Voices clashed, some in shock, some in anger, a few in quiet agreement. The girl's breath caught. The council again. She still did not know what it meant, but judging by the fury around her, it was something dangerous. One diplomat rose, his voice sharp. This is madness. She will ruin everything. You risk our negotiations for the sake of a street child. The ambassador met his glare without flinching. No, I risk nothing. But perhaps the council needs to be reminded what honesty looks like. The words stunned the hall. No one spoke after that. As the gathering ended, the girl followed the ambassador out, her mind spinning. She had eaten with the powerful, seen their anger, and felt their disbelief. Yet the ambassador had stood firm beside her. Still, fear gnawed at her chest. Tomorrow she would face the council, and she sensed it would not be as forgiving as this table. The whispers of doubt she heard today might grow louder, sharper, and more dangerous. And in the dark corners of the hall, unseen figures whispered among themselves, planning something that could end the girl's journey before it truly began. The hidden truth. The next morning, the city was alive with whispers. News had spread fast. An alien street girl had been seen sitting beside the human ambassador at dinner. Some called it madness, others a scandal, but for the girl herself, it felt like a dream she could not wake from. She was led through the embassy's golden halls, her bare feet now covered with simple shoes given by the staff. She wore a clean dress for the first time, though it was plain compared to the silks of nobles. Servants stared at her as she passed, some curious, some disapproving, yet none dared stop her. The ambassador walked ahead with his calm, commanding steps. Guards flanked them, their eyes watchful. The girl followed quietly, her heart thudding in her chest. Today she was to stand before the council, though she still did not fully understand what that meant. They entered a private chamber, smaller than the grand hall but heavy with importance. Documents lay spread across a polished table. Strange glowing seals shimmered on them, symbols of power from many worlds. The ambassador gestured for her to sit, but instead she stood, nervous. He studied her for a moment before speaking. Do you know why that wallet was so important? The girl shook her head. Because it had credits? She asked softly. The ambassador's lips curved faintly. Credits are nothing. They can be replaced. But inside that wallet were papers no one was meant to see. They were drafts of a peace treaty between my people and others who have long been at war. The girl's eyes widened. A treaty? She did not fully grasp politics, but she understood the word war. War meant fire, screams, hunger worse than what she already knew. The ambassador leaned forward. His voice was low but firm. If those papers had fallen into the wrong hands, the treaty would have been destroyed. War would return. Thousands, no millions, would suffer. Her stomach twisted. She remembered holding the wallet in her hands, sitting in the rain, thinking only of food. She had almost run, almost kept it. The thought made her shiver. You saved more than you realized, the ambassador said, his eyes fixed on her, sharp but not unkind. By doing what was right, you protected the hope of peace itself. The girl lowered her gaze. She felt small, almost unworthy. She had not meant to save peace. She had only wanted to do the right thing. Yet somehow her small choice had changed something far greater than herself. But then his tone hardened. And that is why the council will test you today. They will not believe my words. They will want to see you with their own eyes. Some will hate you simply because of what you are. Others will try to use you. Her hands clenched at her sides. Fear filled her, but beneath it burned something new, resolve. She whispered, I will tell them the truth. Nothing more. The ambassador studied her again, then nodded. Good, but truth alone is not always enough. You must also be strong. Before she could ask what he meant, the door opened. A servant hurried in, his face pale. Sir, there is trouble. Rumors spread that the girl is a fraud. Some claim she was planted by enemies to steal the treaty. The girl gasped. That is not true. The ambassador's eyes darkened. I know, but lies are powerful. They travel faster than truth. He stood and adjusted his coat. This is the hidden truth of politics, child. People believe what serves their fear. Her chest tightened. She remembered the sneers at dinner, the whispers that followed her. Even now, when she had done nothing wrong, they painted her as a traitor. The ambassador's voice lowered, firm as steel. This is why I chose to bring you. Not to shame you, but to reveal them. Their greed, their fear, their weakness. She stared at him, confused. Reveal them? Yes, he said. When you stand before the council, speak nothing but the truth. Let them show who they truly are in their anger and doubt. That will be their undoing. Silence filled the room for a long moment. The girl felt the weight of his words. She was no longer just a hungry child. She was part of something larger, a test not only for herself but for those who ruled. Suddenly the servant added in a trembling voice, There are also threats, sir. Some say the girl should be silenced before she speaks. The ambassador's face grew hard. Let them try. She is under my protection. The girl's breath quickened. Silenced? Did that mean killed? She felt the room spin. But the ambassador placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Do not be afraid. Fear is what they want. Courage is what will break them. She met his eyes, and for the first time she believed him. He truly meant to protect her, not use her. But deep inside, she also knew. If she failed, she would be blamed for everything. As they prepared to leave for the council, the girl looked at her reflection in a tall mirror. She saw not the dirty beggar she once was, but a child standing at the edge of history. Her stomach knotted with fear, but her heart whispered, You must be brave. And somewhere in the shadows of the embassy, unseen figures whispered again. Plans were being made, knives sharpened, words prepared to destroy her. The path ahead would not just test her honesty, but her courage, her very will to survive. The reward that shocked all. The council chamber was larger than anything the alien girl had ever seen. A circular hall of stone and steel, its high ceiling shimmered with banners from dozens of worlds. Representatives sat on curved benches, their robes and uniforms bright beneath glowing lights. Their voices clashed in a storm of arguments echoing against the walls. At the center of the chamber stood the girl. She felt small, almost invisible beneath the weight of so many eyes. The guards had led her forward, but now she stood alone. Behind her, the ambassador remained silent, watching carefully. A voice rang out, sharp and full of doubt. This is the child? It came from a tall alien with silver skin and piercing eyes. A street beggar? You claim she saved peace? Murmurs filled the chamber. Some nodded in disbelief. Others shook their heads. The girl's hands trembled at her sides, but she remembered the ambassador's words. Fear is what they want. Courage is what will break them. She lifted her chin, though her knees felt weak. Another voice cut through the noise. A human noble leaned forward, his face twisted in anger. She is no savior. She is a liar. She held those papers. Who knows what she copied, what she sold already? The whispers grew louder. The girl's chest tightened. She wanted to shout that it wasn't true, but her voice stuck in her throat. Then the ambassador stepped forward. His calm voice carried across the chamber. Enough, you demand proof of her honesty. Let her speak for herself. All eyes turned to the girl. Her mouth went dry. She swallowed hard, then spoke in a trembling voice. I found the wallet on the street. I was hungry. I thought about keeping it, but it was not mine. So I gave it back. Some laughed bitterly. One diplomat sneered, such simple words. Do you expect us to believe a child with nothing would not take what she could? The girl's heart pounded, but she forced herself to go on. Because I know what it feels like to lose everything. I would not give that pain to someone else. Silence followed her words. The chamber stilled. For a moment, her voice had pierced the noise. The ambassador stepped beside her now, his gaze sweeping the council. You mock her honesty because it shames you. She had nothing, yet she refused gold. She held secrets that could end wars, yet she returned them. Tell me, would any of you do the same? A ripple of discomfort moved across the benches. Some shifted in their seats. Others avoided his eyes, but one stood, his voice cold. It does not matter. She is a child. She is no diplomat, no soldier. She does not belong in this chamber. The ambassador's lips curved in a faint smile. On the contrary, she belongs more than most, for she has proven what none of you could, selfless honesty. The chamber erupted again in voices, arguments colliding like thunder. The girl stood frozen, overwhelmed. Then, with a sharp sound, the ambassador raised his hand. The hall fell silent once more. "I will make my judgment," he said. His voice carried weight, firm and final. "This girl is no beggar to be ignored. She is no thief to be punished. She is proof that courage and honesty still exist, and because of this I will give her a place at my side." Gasps spread like fire. A diplomat shouted, "What madness is this? You would reward her with position?" "Yes," the ambassador said calmly. "From this day forward she will serve as my aide. She will learn, she will grow, and she will remind us all of what we forget, that peace cannot be built on lies." The girl's eyes widened. Her heart raced. His aide? She could not believe her ears. But the shock in the chamber was greater. Nobles and leaders rose from their seats, voices clashing in outrage. "Impossible! Unacceptable! She is nothing." Yet others, quieter, nodded slowly. They had seen the truth in her eyes, even if they did not admit it. The ambassador did not flinch. He placed his hand gently on the girl's shoulder, steadying her shaking body. "This is my decision. If any oppose, speak now. But know this, you oppose not me alone, but honesty itself." The chamber fell into uneasy silence. None dared challenge him further. The girl stood trembling, caught between fear and wonder. A part of her still thought she was dreaming. Just days ago, she had been shivering on the streets, hungry and forgotten. Now, before the eyes of worlds, she had been given a place of honor. But even as the hall quieted, she felt new eyes upon her. Cold, sharp, and dangerous. Not everyone would accept this decision. Not everyone would forgive her sudden rise. And in that silence, while the ambassador's words echoed still, one thought burned in her mind. This is not the end. This is only the beginning, and danger waits for me now. A new beginning. The chamber slowly emptied, but the weight of the moment stayed in the air. The alien girl stood quietly at the ambassador's side, still shaken by his announcement. She could hear the whispers of the diplomats as they left. Some sounded angry, others shocked, a few even impressed, but none of them could ignore her anymore. The ambassador placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. "What happened today will change everything, for you and perhaps for us all." She nodded, though fear still burned in her chest. Her life had shifted in ways she could not yet understand. Only days ago, she had been a forgotten beggar on the streets. Now she was the ambassador's aide, a role that placed her directly under the gaze of the most powerful people in the galaxy. But not all eyes were kind. As they left the council chamber, she noticed a shadowed figure lingering in the hall. He whispered into a small communicator, his gaze locked on her with cold intent. She shivered, realizing that the threats she had heard about were real. Her rise had made enemies, dangerous ones. That night, the ambassador invited her into his private office. Shelves of books and glowing globes surrounded them. He gestured for her to sit. "You must understand," he said, his tone steady. "This position is not just a reward. It is a responsibility. People will watch you. Some will admire you. Others will try to break you." Her hands tightened in her lap. "I am afraid," she admitted softly. He studied her face, then gave a rare small smile. "Good, fear is not weakness. Fear reminds us of what matters, but courage is choosing to act despite it. That is what you must do." His words warmed her heart. For the first time, she believed she could be more than a beggar. She could be brave. The following days tested her. Reporters swarmed outside the embassy gates, shouting questions about the street child who became an aide. Some called her a hero. Others accused her of trickery. Inside, officials debated loudly, some trying to push her away, others warning that harming her would dishonor the ambassador himself. But through it all, she stayed at his side. She listened as he spoke with leaders, observed the way he chose his words like weapons, and learned how every silence could hold meaning. He did not treat her as decoration. He asked her thoughts, listened to her answers, and corrected her gently when she faltered. Slowly, respect began to grow, though not everywhere. One evening, As she walked through the courtyard, a group of strangers cornered her. Their faces were hidden, their voices sharp. "You don't belong here," one hissed. "Go back to the streets or you will pay the price." Fear gripped her chest, but she remembered the ambassador's words. Courage was acting despite fear. She stood straighter, meeting their cold eyes. "I belong because I did what was right," she said. Her voice shook, but she did not back away. Before the strangers could respond, guards rushed forward, scattering them. The ambassador appeared soon after, his face grave. "You see now," he told her. "There are those who will never accept you. But you must not bend. If you fall, they win." That night, as she sat by her window, she thought about her journey. The rain-soaked streets where she once begged. The wallet that had changed everything. The council chamber where her truth had silenced the powerful. And now the dangerous path ahead. She understood something clearly for the first time. She had not been chosen only to be rewarded. She had been chosen to remind people that honesty, even from the weakest, could change the fate of many. The next day, the ambassador announced her new role officially. The great hall was filled again, this time with not only diplomats but also citizens, reporters, and guards. His voice carried strong and steady. This girl, once forgotten, chose honesty when she could have chosen greed. She chose courage when she could have chosen fear. And because of this, she will serve as a symbol of what binds us together: trust. The hall echoed with mixed reactions. Some cheered, some whispered angrily, but all listened. The girl stepped forward, her small frame shaking, but her voice clear as she spoke. "I was no one. I had nothing. But one choice changed my life. If I can make that choice, anyone can. If peace matters, honesty must matter too." For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then slowly applause began, soft at first, then stronger until it echoed against the high ceiling. Tears stung her eyes. She knew not everyone believed in her. Not everyone accepted her. But enough had heard her truth to spark something new. The ambassador leaned down, his voice low so only she could hear. "This is your beginning. Protect it. Grow from it. And never forget the streets you came from. They gave you the strength to stand here." She nodded, her heart steady. For the first time in her life, she felt not like a shadow, but like a light. And as the applause filled the chamber, she realized something important. This was not just her new beginning. It was the beginning of a story the galaxy would never forget.